start with this. Well, very recently, the WBC mandated about 2 or 3 fights. And one among them is the long-anticipated unification match between Amanda Serrano, the reigning WBO champion, and Jelena Mrdjenovich, the reigning WBA and WBC champion. One might feel so inclined to ask, how is it that the WBC is ordering a fight between 2 champions? How's that supposed to work? Well, unlike in men's boxing, in women's boxing, the WBC has Amanda Serrano registered as their interim champion, in spite of Amanda being a full-fledged champion with the WBO. They don't normally rank fighters that are full-fledged champions with other sanctioning bodies in their rank standings. You know, it's not usual to see a WBO champion, like Amanda, be an interim champion with the WBC as well. They don't do this with the men, but they do it with the women. We've talked about that here on the channel. And because they do, that allows them to order a fight between Amanda and Jelena. That being said, Jelena is being put in the hot seat. The order has come down, and it's up to Jelena if she wants to stay WBC champion to comply. Amanda Serrano took Twitter to react to the news. She was quoted as saying, "Finally, the Honorable WBC Moro, Mauricio Suleiman, WBC's president, has ordered negotiations between my team, Lou DiBella, and Jelena Mrdjenovich's team to unify her WBC title, in which I'm the interim champion, and my WBO title, her full-fledged WBO title. Fans have been wanting this fight for years, and it's finally happening. Yes!" Most of the enthusiasm expressed towards this fight has been from the Amanda Serrano-Lou DiBella side of things. This isn't the first time enthusiasm was expressed towards unifying titles between the 2 champions.
It isn't.
Bottom line, Amanda Serrano wants this fight, and she's wanted this fight for some time. The question is, can it happen, especially with what's going on in the wild? The pandemic, it's not over. It's not done. It's still raging.
The money's got to be there for the fight.
The money's got to come from somewhere. What dollar amount is it going to take to get Jelena Mrdjenovich in the ring with Amanda Serrano? Because if the dollar amount isn't to Jelena Mrdjenovich's liking, if it goes to a purse bid, well, the fight's going to go to the highest bidder, and it is then up to Jelena to decide if she wants to comply or relinquish the green belt, relinquish the WBC title. I want to say that I like the fight. I want to say that this is the best fight, if not one of them, the best fight that the featherweight division has to offer. Both of these guys are seasoned veterans. Both of these guys have been around the sport for a very long time, and it's about time that they lock horns with each other. That being said, I'm an enthusiast. I want to see the fight happen. I just know that there are certain problems that need to be ironed out. The dollar amounts, you know, what the fighters want to make for the fight, and where the fight is going to take place, i.e., what platform. Because neither Amanda Serrano or Jelena Mrdjenovich, neither one of the two are with a major promoter that has a network deal. Last month, Jelena Mrdjenovich came down from Canada, made an appearance on Ring City against Iranda Torres, Ring City, USA, which featured on NBC Channel 4. Ooh. I wonder that wouldn't be the home of a Mrdjenovich versus Serrano fight. I wonder that the people over there at Ring City wouldn't help put up the money to make the fight possible. I mean, they are on a major network after all, NBC.
That's right.
I wonder what the fight means to them. I wonder if that's where it won't take place, because it's got to take place somewhere. The fight's too goddamn good to fly under the radar. The fight's too goddamn good to not be featured on a major network or a platform of some kind where the fight fans could take it in.
So the WBC ordered the fight.
That's all well and good. Perhaps that'll get the ball rolling, but it takes more to make a fight than just having the WBC order it. Now you've got to iron out the particulars.
Get to the meat and potatoes.
So I lost count of how many fights the WBC ordered that didn't happen. So it's going to take more than just an order from the WBC to bring this fight into fruition. Let's see what happens. Another news per tweet from Michael Benson. Eddie Hearn has revealed that Lawrence Okolie versus Krzysztof Glowacki WBO cruiserweight title will be announced in his schedule tomorrow, which by the time you see this video will be today. Also, Savannah Marshall and Chantel Cameron defenses, plus Rachel Ball versus Shannon Courtenay 2 for the WBA bantamweight title, vacant title. I saw a lot of people asking about that situation between Rachel and Shannon. And, you know, I think it's important to note that it's not Shannon's title shot. It's Rachel's. You know, Rachel is the WBA's interim champion. You could actually remove Shannon Courtenay from the equation, swap her out for Ebony Bridges. It would still be Rachel's title shot. It's Rachel that's entitled to the shot. I say that because there were a lot of people asking what exactly had Shannon done to earn a world title opportunity. Well, it's not really her opportunity. She's going to get the chance to fight for the title.
She is.
But if you took her out of the equation, Rachel, it's her shot. It's actually Rachel's shot. When it comes to that Lawrence Okolie versus Krzysztof Glowacki WBO title fight, I think it kind of just fell into the background that the WBO title in the cruiserweight division has been vacant all this time, lying in wait for this fight. There's not much new ground to cover there. The only thing left to do is to make it official and announce the fight date.
I like Lawrence for the fight.
Haven't made any bones about that. You know, I think that Lawrence packs a big enough punch that if he lets one go and it lands on Krzysztof Glowacki's chin, I don't think Krzysztof can take it. Look, Krzysztof is a good fighter, but I don't think he takes the best punch, if I'm being honest. And now that Lawrence is setting up his punches more, showing more of a jab,
I like him even more to win the fight.
I like him even more to become the WBO's next cruiserweight champion. When it comes to Savannah Marshall, they're talking about a title defense. And, you know, Savannah can't have any unification matches for the time being because the only other champion at this weight is someplace else, in an entirely different weight class. Hell, in an entirely different sport. I'm talking about Clarissa Shields.
Isn't her next fight supposed to be at 154?
Assuming that fight is even still on. I'm talking about that Marie-Eve Dicaire unification match. That was supposed to be Clarissa Shields' next fight. I don't know here today if that fight is or isn't still on. But even if it is, well, that means that Clarissa's down there at 154. So why are all the belts at 160 still tied up?
Doesn't make any sense.
All the news coming out involving Clarissa is in reference to her crossing over to mixed martial arts, signing that deal with the PFL, rubbing elbows with John Bones Jones and Holly Holm, who quite famously crossed over from boxing to mixed martial arts.
Has a fabulous ass.
But as far as boxing matches go, and news in reference to that involving Clarissa, news is sparse. I mean, that Marie-Eve Dicaire fight has all but been forgotten. I mean, when are we going to get an official fight date for that? Or is it that we haven't gotten one yet because, you know, fight's been canceled or postponed or something? I mean, this is what's going on. And while this is going on, all those belts in the middleweight division, they're all tied up because Clarissa's still registered as the unified middleweight champion. Savannah can't fight for any of them, and neither can anyone else unless Clarissa Shields returns to the middleweight division, and for all accounts, she's not going to do that, whether that Marie-Eve Dicaire fight is on or off. It's clear that Clarissa Shields' near future doesn't involve the middleweight division. So why is she still in possession of middleweight titles?
So, Savannah's going to have a title defense.
And not a unification match, as there is no world champion available for her to do so. And who this title defense is going to come against is anybody's guess. When it comes to the illustrious Chantel Cameron, the newly crowned WBC 140-pound Chantel Cameron, they're talking about a title defense for her as well. Emphasis on title defense and not a unification match. There are 3 other world champions at the weight right there with Chantel. And those 3 world champions just so happen to all be with the same outfit, the Empire Stable of Fighters. Because they're saying that Chantel's next fight is going to be a title defense as opposed to a unification match, one can make the inference that perhaps who Chantel is going to be fighting is Melissa Hernandez.
Which is fine by me.
If by the time this video is uploaded, news breaks that Chantel Cameron's next opponent is going to be Melissa, the very experienced Melissa Hernandez.
That's it.
I'm okay with that fight. I like that fight, and that is a fight that I'm confident Chantel Cameron can win. You know, before that Adriana Araujo fight took place, before I got to watch that thing, I wondered how Chantel would fare with someone who's strong and seasoned and can really punch, you know, because Melissa, she's a live one, she is. And in watching Chantel Cameron handle Adriana Araujo, who comes from a very good amateur background, like Chantel does, in watching Chantel handle Adriana Araujo
In one-sided fashion.
I'm convinced that not only can she deal with Melissa Hernandez, but she can deal with any of these other world champions that are out there. Kali Reese, Mary McGee.
Who are all really good fucking fighters.
But that Adriana Araujo fight, that boosted my confidence in Chantel Cameron's abilities because, you know, up until that point, more often than not, when Chantel Cameron would have a fight, she'd be the biggest puncher in the room, the biggest puncher in the ring. And I wondered how would she fare against someone who's big and strong like Adriana Araujo. Would she be able to stay in character, stay the same dominant fighter that she had been up until that point? And Chantel passed that test with flying colors. That being said, there are going to be some fights out there for Chantel that are more difficult than others. There are going to be some fights that are harder fights than others. But all things considered, I honestly believe Chantel Cameron has everything it takes to become that division's next undisputed champion. So let's wait and see what the announcements are going to be. Is it going to be Melissa Hernandez, or is it going to be somebody else? Is it going to be a unification match? We'll find out shortly.
Fuck Bob Arum, okay? That's what's gonna happen. Fuck Bob Arum, all right? Why you talking shit, Bob? Keep your goddamn mouth shut. Keep your goddamn mouth shut, Bob. You want a cheap ass fight? Psst, I'll punch you in your shit for free. How about that? That's the only cheap ass shit you're gonna get out of me. I'll give you a free lick, boy. Bob, you a piece of shit. You're one of the worst fucking promoters in the game, okay? All of your great fighters left your ass. Crawford, he about to leave your ass. It ain't my fault you can't afford a great fight, okay? You cheap as shit. You can barely pay your own fighters good money, okay? That ain't my fault. And now you mad because the PBC opponents, you can't afford a PBC fighter. You can't afford us, Bob. I'm sorry. Look, Bob, stop talking shit, all right? Stop talking shit. You're a horrible fucking promoter. You got all this talent, you can't do shit with it. You got ESPN backing you. They don't got no money, Bob. You can barely help Terrence Crawford make any real money. He's one of the best fighters you've had for years. Years. He can't make no money. I don't need no $10 million. But I need some respect. And the respect come in the check. All right? The respect come in the check. Ain't my fault that I'm an opponent and I'm worth more money than your champion, your undefeated welterweight champion. That ain't my fault. That's your fault, Bob. That's your fault, Bob. Terrence Crawford wants to fight Sean Porter. Terrence Crawford wants to fight Keith Thurman. Terrence Crawford wants a great fight. Your fucking promoter can't afford it, Terrence.
That sounds like desperation to me. That sounds like desperation that I'm hearing. That's right. Desperation on the part of Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, who's not having much luck getting an Errol Spence Jr. fight. Guy on his own side of the street. He's not having much luck with that guy. A rematch with Sean Porter, that's not going to get Keith a big payday. That's not going to get him much money.
Nope.
You can forget about getting a Manny Pacquiao rematch. That ship has sailed. Not that it was ever docked.
It wasn't.
So what are you going to do? Run risks with the likes of a Yordenis Ugas for a WBA baby belt on your side of the street? Run risks with a guy like that off of what is a 17 going on 18-month layoff. Keith's been out of action for well over a year. It's actually close to 2.
Yeah, it's actually closer to 2 now.
Right now, the biggest payday that Keith Thurman can get is with a guy on his side of the street who doesn't want to give him the time of day. That's unified welterweight champion Errol Spence Jr. Aside from that, his best bet at getting a sizable price, a sizable payday, is to try his luck with the people over there at Top Rank who are in a bit of a bind, trying to get Terrence Crawford a quality opponent that the fight fans are interested in seeing him fighting. He's trying to leverage himself and his name as a means to get at another sizable purse. And the problem with that is Keith, much like his supporters, his fans, what little of them there are left, they don't want to acknowledge that there's a global pandemic going on and you can't get at the kind of money you want to make because the crowds aren't back yet. No way. So if you really want a Terrence Crawford fight, you're going to have to compromise. There is this idea that Bob Arum is a cheapskate, that Bob Arum isn't doing everything he can to make fights for Terrence Crawford, that he can't afford to get those PBC welterweights to come over to his side of the street. But maybe it's not that Bob can't afford them, it's that those guys are asking for too much, that they don't really want a Terrence Crawford fight. But if they're going to have it, they require an arm and a leg in order to do so. These guys want to get paid like they won the fight already before they even have the goddamn fucking fight. And that's the problem. I mean, listen to this fucking guy. You have the passing of the torch fight, and you drop the torch. You have the crossover fight, Manny Pacquiao, and you trip on a pebble, lose your world title, stay out of the ring for 17 going on 18 months, close to 2 years. So you can turn around and ask for top dollar from Top Rank for what would be your title shot, an opportunity for you, because you're not a world champion.
So get a load of him.
Kick it to him and he'll tell you that he's the reason the goddamn Pacquiao fight did so well. Yeah, fighting Manny Pacquiao, that had nothing to do with the fight selling as well as it did. It was because of Keith Thurman. That's what sold the fight.
He's delusional.
He's saying that Top Rank can't afford to pay a PBC welterweight. My ass. Last I checked, Top Rank's guy at welterweight fought in the last 12 months where you didn't. Scored himself a multi-million-dollar payday in the process of doing so. Why didn't we see Keith Thurman in the year of 2020? Why didn't we see him in the last 12 months? You know, I'd wager...
PBC's in the red.
That's right. I'd wager that the PBC ain't got enough fight dates and enough money to accommodate all of these guys. I mean, why do you think that Chris Eubank Jr. so decided to cross the street? What happened to that fleeting interest in a Jermall Charlo fight? But you see where he ended up. Keith Thurman, this guy sat out the last 12 months. 17 months total.
Or he should have at least have had a tune-up fight by now.
I think the PBC's in the red. I think fighters like Keith Thurman have grown desperate, and some are leaving PBC Island. Very recently, we saw Chris Eubank Jr. decide to go with Sarlin Promotions. Before that, we saw F.A. Ajagba cross over from the PBC over to Top Rank.
I think Keith's desperate.
I think Keith is trying to stay relevant by calling out the name of Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, who I don't believe for a second Keith Thurman would fight off a 17 or 18-month layoff. I think what he's doing is trying to garner attention for what could very well be his next fight against a tune-up kind of guy, a tune-up kind of opponent, because no matter what you want to tell me, this guy's been out of action for close to 2 years.
That's a fact.
He's coming off a surgery to his hand.
That's a fact.
And he's coming off a loss. He's not having much luck securing the biggest and best fight on his own side of the street with Errol Spence Jr., so he's trying to test the waters with what's out there, trying his best to stay relevant at a time that is less than ideal. I don't believe for a second all this candor, all this rhetoric from Keith Thurman is in the best interests of fighting Terrence Crawford in his very next fight. I don't believe that for a second, and I don't know if you do, but I don't. What I do believe is he's trying to get himself attention for what could very well be his next tune-up fight.
You go ahead and act like he doesn't need one.
You can go ahead and take whatever he says at face value. You want to say that Top Rank can't afford a PBC welterweight? Well, apparently the PBC can't either, since he hasn't fought in 17 months.